guys, it's Adam, and I am in my friend Tom Spina's shop in Long Island, a wonderland of exploration and film love. And you know I have a cosplay problem or habit. Within my cosplay habit, I have a Chewbacca habit, and my Chewbacca mask is one of my favorite possessions, and it was built by Tom. And we were able to talk about that on Twitter, but we haven't done a video covering the construction process of just how intricate this mask and the reproduction you did really is.
It was, it's quite a project. And you say built by me, I'll say built by our studio, because there are lots of people that had a hand in this. And it's, we'll go through the process, and I think people will start to see just how much went into it. For me, I became obsessed with Chewie during this project. So we had started, you came to us at just the right time. We were working on a number of Chewie projects, and one of them was working on a skin for the Anovos Chewie that they were prototyping to do a test to see if they could do something with that. And so you hit us just as we had made a few molds and started researching the hair.
You were at the very beginning of the process of replicating
so
Chewie.
It's just perfect timing on your part. So, you know, this being sort of the finished beast, we can probably speak to the level of finishing that goes into this. And I'm going to take a knee and get closer.
Let's get into it.
So, this is a combination of, I'll just start from underneath. There's a fiberglass underskull that's fit to your life cast. There are toggles in the lips that key into the lower lip and the two sides of the top lip that have cables that run to the other jaw, so that when you open the jaw, it actuates the lips, and it does it in the proper snarl with extra on the one side.
Now, this is a mechanic designed by Stuart Freeborn, the maker of Chewbacca, who also did Moonwatcher from 2001. And this is a super impressive innovation he was making in makeup.
It really was. And it was, what was amazing about it was how simple he made it. You know, there's the old saying, or at least it's a saying here, you know, complicated is great, but simple is genius. And Stuart was that kind of genius. Stuart devised simple ways to achieve amazingly lifelike results. People don't realize, you know, Chewie wasn't dragging a bunch of cables and operators.
Right.
Chewie was Peter, and that was it. It's really incredible. And now he's you.
I love wearing this thing so much. People lose, as you've seen, people lose their minds when they see a full-size Chewie. They just come up and hug you. So let's walk through. I mean, I guess we should start at the beginning and come all the way back to the hair.
Okay.
Because that's maybe one of the most complicated things to get.
Yeah, let's do it. And then we'll come back.
Okay. So this is me. This is
you.
This is we have a casting of my head from when I did You Can Live Forever for the Discovery Channel.
Nice.
And Frank Ippolito has the molds for that, and he sent you a foam casting.
He did, and we pulled a mold off of just the face and then crudely shaved off your beard, because from there we needed to make a chin cup and the sort of Batman mask that goes inside to support your mask.
And when you say chin cup, that's how Chewie's snarl is activated. All I do, because the mask fits my head so exactly, is open my mouth like that, and that activates a cable that pulls the lips back.
And there's little toggles that angle up. They're little hinged pieces.
Amazing. So this is an interim
mold. So that's just a real quick silicone mold for that with a plaster jacket. Now this is really neat.
What is this?
So that is a 3D print of a scan that we made of one of the original skins. So this is how we were able to make sure that everything was so true in our sculpture for him.
Well, so this is the thing that's really fascinating. There's a whole bunch of really amazingly dedicated Star Wars cosplayers, and at least a dozen people I can think of have embarked on making their own Chewbacca. And when you do, you have to figure out what is the shape of what's under all that hair.
Always challenging, and always hard.
So this is truly what was underneath Chewie's hair.
It is. So this was a collector that we work with on Tom Spina Designs, somebody we do displays and restoration for. He had this from Stuart, and as you can see though, it's all torn up.
Yeah,
it was aged, deformed a little bit in places, tears at the corners of the mouth, etc. So we did a 3D scan of it. We then made a mold of that. Yeah, you can see that lines up pretty nicely.
Yeah, it really does. You made it.
The profile is so important on him, and I think that's something that sometimes gets missed in
something
interpretations.
I'm curious about is when you finally saw this and you started to work with it, was there some aspect of it that was like, oh, That's the thing I could never figure out.
There's a little bit of an arch in his eyebrows. And it's a little tough to tell from this because this one's deteriorated. But once we saw certain things in here and then could look at, other images of a clean skin, we were able to figure out a few things. But a lot of it, it just sort of clicks. You see
right. Once all the details are right, everything starts to fall
So we
into
made
place.
a mold of this, and we did a clay press. And then by hand, we repaired the damage, and we cleaned it up.
When you say clay press, you mean you took the mold of this and you pressed clay into it so you could come out with a fixable...
A malleable, fixable piece.
Okay.
And then from there, here's something neat about this, though. So this was a skin on a biscuit foam form, a rigid polyurethane form.
Okay, two-part rigid foam.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Now the underside of this is hollow because this is just a 3D print. But the underside of the real one from Stuart's had a negative impression of a face inside of it. And so we scanned that and inverted it, and this is actually a young Peter Mayhew's face. And it's
What an amazing thing to unearth out of this.
Right?
Oh, man.
So and it's a little lumpy because it was this biscuit foam form. And it's just, it wasn't made as a mold of his face, but it is a really cool thing to just have Peter's face from the time.
Also, you and I both know Peter. He's one of the kindest, gentlest humans. I mean, he's Chewbacca.
Yeah.
If you love Chewbacca, you will love Peter Mayhew because they are one and the same. That's awesome.
For sure.
That is a lovely and amazing artifact.
It's just such a nice little bonus that we get to hang on the wall from doing that. So now from here, we make our clay press. From that, we make this. And now what this
is super elaborate. This is a big fiberglass mold.
Yeah, this is epoxy fiberglass. This is Frank Ippolito style. With a little bit of freeform air in there as well. And this is the negative where the skin is poured into. Okay,
so the reason I'm looking at a very complex inner buck and outer casting is because when you cast into this, you end up with a shell that fits both the underskull and gives the outer detail. Is that right?
And there are other molds that aren't featured here, but we actually have a mold of this, which is the inner core for this mold, the negative of the face skin. That mold is our mold to make the fiberglass shell for the face.
Right. This is a tremendous amount of engineering.
Your face has to fit inside of. Yeah, it's challenging.
There's so many steps to
and
the
if you look in here, we've got little registration points, and those are negatives in the skin to receive the little lip pulls and toggles and things like that.
So let's talk about the skin, because the original Chewbacca skin is a foam latex.
Correct.
And like a lot of movie props that are made that way because it's super lightweight and moves very fleshly, it is not long for this world.
Correct.
And that is where one of your biggest businesses is restoring rotting foam.
And it's always a challenge. And what we did for yours was silicone.
Which is much more durable, will last for a couple of decades, hopefully.
Probably, yeah. And it's a platinum silicone. And actually, it's funny, this was a test skin we did for yours. And we rejected it because you can see there's the little...
Oh, okay. So this is a test skin, and I can see... Right, so these are the voids, and you glue in...
The little toggles that would... actuate the lip curls. And on this test skin, we weren't happy with it. We felt it was too tough.
Oh, because this one is definitely softer.
Correct. So this is, I believe, is Dragon Skin FX Pro. What we wound up with was a mix of FX Pro and an EcoFlex, I think 0030 or 0020 to get us a more soft skin, but still not one that would weep at all or leach any oil. We wanted something that was self-contained, and smooth on stuff was great for this.
Now, this is common for you to have to almost chemically engineer the properties of the rubbers and the plastics that you want?
It's sort of like the business. If you don't have the job you want, make it. If you don't have the material you want, make it. Creative solutions to everything.
There's this picture of Stuart Freeborn starting to punch.
Oh yeah,
the Chewie, and it looks a little like the Cowardly Lion mask from Wizard of Oz.
Right,
because he's got the cowl, and this is what I think of when I look at this.
Every time. And in here, we've just got a set of teeth stuck in for the sake of it.
And these are...
So those are the masters for the teeth.
Now, this is another thing about Chewy that has been fascinating, is that a lot of people who make their own Chewies grossly overestimate the size of Chewy's
He does
teeth.
not have massive choppers.
They're not much bigger than mine.
No. Yeah, and they are really neat in that they're sort of animal teeth and the way that the various incisors work and things like that. The gapping and stuff like that. We wanted to make sure that we actually did 3 iterations of the teeth before we hit on the final. We had castings of original teeth that we started with.
Sure.
We then cleaned those up, did a mold off of that, cleaned those up, realized that we had, there was an extra little bit of flex we needed to get, and we said, all right, we're just gonna, like, no matter what,
again.
we just, had to get it right. And then these are, just a nice little open back mold for those. It's nothing too fancy. What's nice about these is they come with the sort of palette, which then gets built into this, and some of that gets removed so that you can put in, as you know, inside your mask, there's a little tongue and palette that goes in place. And we actually stitch those in. Just so that glue can't come loose over time, we embed power mesh into the silicone.
Oh, wow.
And then a little bit of stitching into the fiberglass, just because I'm a little nervous that way. On all of these sort of molds and the re-sculpting, all of that, there's really one key guy here at the studio that did most of that, and that was Steve Richter. And he and I worked together to figure out what the mechanics were, but in terms of, nuts and bolts, making all of these molds, refining those sculpts, those were his hands on there, and he did some really great work on it.
Were there any mornings when he came in and just said, do I have to mold Chewy parts again?
I don't think anybody ever says that.
Said nobody ever.
Right.
Now, one of the things that you get when you cast a fiberglass or vacuform cast of my face to put inside this is that it really aligns my whole face perfectly into Chewy, so that my chin does the activation correct, but also that the eyes sit right on top of my eyes.
And we did something that's not on the real mask, and that is we built a back of the head for you because we had your full life cast.
Right.
We decided to finish out that fiberglass down to the bottom of your skull. We split it. We gave it the Velcro, and that means that when you go to open your mouth, it's not going to pull the eyes down on you, as sometimes can happen when you have a mouth actuated thing.
Okay, so now you've got all of the mechanical parts of Chewy, and there's me on the inside, fiberglass outer skull, the silicone outer skin, and the next stage is to make him hairy because he's a hairy. He's a hairy bastard, so we got to make him hairy.
I am, I'm known to be slightly obsessed with hair in general, but Chewbacca specifically.
And these are the 2 primary colors of Chewie's head?
Correct, yeah. They're the primary colors for his body and his head.
They're both lighter and darker than I originally thought they would be.
And they're, to me, a little bit warmer in this than I think most people think, and maybe a little less orange than people think on the body.
A lot more gray? There's a lot of gray in Chewy?
What's really neat is, to be able to go through, Stuart had a great eye for everything, but he and Kay came up with really beautiful blends for Chewy, and you can still see a lot of similar sort of blends going forward.
In other things that he did?
And in other things they've done, in other things other people have done, that sort of two-tone look that Chewy has appears a lot.
It's really surprising when people see the costume up front, they don't realize how banded Chewy's colors really are.
He's just bop, bop, bop.
Yeah.
And so in here, there's brown, there's red, there's gray, silver, and black.
Okay, so this is, I know who makes this. Can we talk about this?
Absolutely.
This is National Fiber Technology.
National Fiber Technology. They're up in Massachusetts. I've been getting fur from them for over 20 years now.
They're the industry standard. They make the long, mostly in regular furs, you can buy about a 3-inch nap, 4-inch nap maybe, and that's it. But National Fiber Technologies makes anything hair, whatever you want.
Right, and for yours we did a mod acrylic hair. Okay. And what we did is we had them do a texturized pass on it, which I think gives it a little more of an animal look to it, makes it a little wilder.
Well, I've said this, the great thing about packing Chewy for a con is that the more messed up his hair gets, the more accurate he looks to Chewy.
Well, that's the way all of these props are. Like, if they're too clean and they're too new, they look like a replica. You need a little bit of life in them, a little bit of age. So yeah, we went back and forth with them with a lot of samples scales till we got something that you could put on the real suit and blend and it would just disappear.
Do they have some special machine?
They do.
This is
they have the
amazing
only
to me that
loom
this
in the
is like a
country or the
four-way-
world, so they say,
Really?
that will do hair this long.
So it's
and
actually integrally made, not...
It is, I'm not sure if it's loomed into the fabric or vice versa.
Right.
But it is a 4-way stretch fabric that we use, certainly on this mask.
It's super comfortable, super breathable.
It's so good. And if you're doing like a statue or we do creatures all the time.
Right.
To be able to work with their fabric on the 4-way stretch, you can wrap it around complex curves and it just takes the form so beautifully.
So I will tell you that at one point, out of a garbage can at Industrial Light and Magic, I pulled a little hank of Chewie's original hair.
Oh, gosh.
And they were upgrading a costume in this just piece like this.
Oh,
was
so
there. So
great.
it's still on my shelf. I figure if I ever finish a Boba Fett, I'll hang it off the belt.
Nice.
Okay, so once you've got the hair from National Fiber Technologies, that's only the color, right? So
Right,
now
that's
you've
the
got to make
color
it
on a
work
backing.
for a mask. Can we bring this back over here and talk about how this
I'll
works?
bring just some of these here. So what's interesting here is the hair down here is pretty much this. We do a little bit of a layered thing under here to give a little impression of extra length, because he does have a little extra length in the curls there.
Right.
The rest of the face, so the cowl, much like the Cowardly Lion,
Right.
is on the fabric backing.
Okay, so that's everything like from about here around the face.
All of the
this
gray,
all moving
basically.
back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the bib.
And the bib.
And that's how the real mask is made. The cowl and the bib are a single piece on a backing, except theirs is all hand-tied. For yours... Now,
When you say hand-tied, that means like latch hooked? onto it?
Exactly,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
One little batch of hairs at a time.
Yeah.
But when you look at the real Chewie, you can really see the tying on it. You see there's a lot of air between the hairs. He's not super dense.
Right.
He's not poofy. He's stringy. And it works. It gives him a age.
And I had heard that some of the Tarful costumes were really hot for the actors to wear, and they went back to the latch hooking, from what I understand that Peter told me, for The Force Awakens. And
They
the
did.
costume was, again, very breathable for him.
Nice. It's old school, you
Okay,
know.
so
and
once
Chewie
you've
is
got
old
the
school.
cowl-
So the cowl goes in place,
Yeah.
and then what you do is you, on the original mask, it's actually glued. It's not punched. It's well glued, and there's. We do a lot of both. I'm a fan of really well glued hair, though. If you do it right, you can really give the impression of direction and growth and things like that. Because this is silicone, we went with punched.
And tell me, describe what punching actually means.
Right. So what punching means is you would cut a bunch of this off the backing, or you can buy loose hair as well in the same blend. And then you sort of wrap it around a finger, and you take a needle, and the needle's got a little fork on the end.
So you take a sewing needle that you've snipped the back of the eye off.
Yeah, you kind of snip it at an angle. And you hook one hair and inject it into the silicone, and then you pull the needle out, and it stays.
So the needle pushes the hair into the silicone, and then the pressure of the silicone holds the hair in.
Correct.
So we're looking at hundreds and thousands of hairs,
Yes.
really, and every single one is individually punched?
Exactly.
Is that what you...
Michelle Nairi, who's someone that works with us on a regular basis, spent a lot of time with your Chewbacca, getting to know every inch of his face.
You sent me a lot of wonderful interim pictures of it slowly coming together, like
just
someone's crochet
creeping in.
project of more and more of Chewie's face being covered.
And what's cool about doing it in punching, and same with gluing, is you can adjust your blend as you get in. So with Chewie, you get a little lighter as you come in, and that's something that a lot of people do, effects guys do, just naturally.
Yeah.
You punch a head of hair, you get a little lighter towards the hairline. You're doing a creature, you got a little lighter towards the features.
You said something to me when I came to pick this up, and you said, the hardest part about Chewbacca is you could get it 95% right, and you're going to end up with Joe Baca, Chewbacca's cousin, that doesn't really look like Chewie.
Lubaka.
Chewbacca. So let's help out Chewbacca cosplayers out there. What primary mistakes do you see them making?
A lot of people go a little dark on the face. His mustache isn't as contrasty from his face as you'd think. It's actually kind of a blend of the brown and the
There's
gray.
a little bit of the black, but it's
It's not super contrasty. contrasty. His hair isn't as long as most people think. A lot of times you'll see folks that assume that his hair kind of comes all the way down here from here, and they're using
feels like it does,
full-length Kanekalon, that they're getting out of a bag. For the most part, the hair is 7 or 8 inches long. It's not massively dangly.
And I remember early in Chewie cosplay, people are really getting to understand Chewie more as a cosplaying community. But early on, there was a lot where the hair from the bottom lip just came straight down.
Yeah, you need that tuck.
That is really key, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many person hours goes into something like this?
I don't have a record. So we were lucky in that we were working on a few projects at once.
Right.
So there was some sort of shared overhead, basically.
Sure.
Shared molds, shared time working on things. But I mean, if you think about all of the numerous molds that were made, each of those is days.
Hours, yeah.
All of the time hair punching, casting skins, testing it, painting the skin, making sure that we had the right durometer on the skin.
And then getting the mechanics to work
making the teeth
reliable.
3 or 4 times. There's all kinds of things. Yeah, and the mechanics don't go in mechanically, for lack of a better term.
I just want to show the activation of the mouth.
Yeah.
Because it's really the lip curl is still quite subtle.
Yes.
But boy does it sell. Here's Chewie opening the mouth. And you can see that on the right side it curls a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that just
it pushes away at the
like,
bottom, it pulls up there.
I feel like Chewie's admonishing me whenever I do this, and I want to say I'm sorry. I want to apologize to the Wookiee.
What are you doing, Adam?
Now, the inside of the mouth, can we talk about that?
Yeah. So that's sort of an interpretation of what's there on the real one. There's a little difference in how we did it there for some simplicity there. But again, we use silicone instead of foam. We wanted this to hold up over time. But that is a single piece, sort of palate and tongue that goes in. It's got the 2 holes, the sort of tonsil holes, whatever you would call those, that are on the real one that are kind of weird. But
and if you look in there, I can see the springs that you have. Pulling it back.
And the original masks, they're not. I guess it depends on the mask. Some of them are elastic, some of the things like that. For this, where we're talking about fiberglass, we need a little more tension, so we went with springs.
Peter Mayhew told me that one of the things that drove him nuts is a lot of people who make a mask make the mouth all the way closed. And he's like, Chewie's mouth is never all the way closed.
That's really true. And it's funny, in tinkering with him, one of the reasons this is sitting here with some teeth in it is I felt like it didn't look like Chewie like that.
Right.
But as soon as you do that, it's like, oh, there he is. It's like he shaved, but that's him.
This is turns out to be your business, really. It is the exploration of an infinite number of subtleties that you have to get them all right in order for the final thing to feel genuine.
Absolutely. No, and I think that I hope that people found the process interesting here.
Tom, it's a magnificent piece, and to me, understanding and walking through the engineering only makes it even more of one of my most prized possessions in my collection. Tom, thank you so much. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
And here we go.